When production wraps up later this year, HSV will be on its Pat Malone as Australia's last car manufacturer. And the final vehicle to roll down the line is likely to be one of these manic monsters. Don't expect a John Farnham here with only 300 of these epic, tyre-frying HSV GTSR W1s being produced, and they're all sold. Some people are even paying up to $250k on the road for what's likely to be a sought-after collector's edition. But what are they getting for their hard-earned dollar? Well, today I'm going to take you through a detailed review of the most powerful, most expensive and fastest Australian car ever. To get a true appreciation for just how crazy this car is, we have it up on a hoist to give you a look under the skirt. If you thought the stoppers on a GTS were big, have a look at this. The AP Racing branded brakes measure in at 410mm, feature 6-piston monoblock calipers and cross drilling. The pad area is about 25% bigger than a standard GTS and 10% lighter. And to put that into perspective, they're about 100mm bigger than an SS Commodore and just slightly bigger than a V8 supercar. Nestled in behind the brakes is a fixed-rate upside-down strut unit with a coilover at the rear. And if the name Super Shock sounds familiar, that's because it's the same brand that supplies suspension to the Walkaround Racing Supercars team. This part here is real carbon fibre, and this front three-quarter section is polypropylene instead of steel. It allows it to sit 12mm wider each side to fit those bigger wheels and brakes. Now check this out, the business end of the W1. You're looking at the GM-built LS9 engine. It's the same power plant fitted to the Corvette C6 ZR1. 6.2 litres with a dirty big supercharger. It's good for 474 kilowatts of power, or 636 horsepower, and 815 newton metres of torque. The Eaton supercharger is rated at 2.3 litres per revolution. If you factor in the supercharger to crank ratio, that is cramming an additional 522 litres of air into that engine at 6,000 RPM. To put that into perspective, that's 522 of these per second. A lot of work needed to be done to make the engine fit. This custom carbon fibre airbox withstands both temperature and pressure as the engine works. The dry sump tank is lifted straight from the Corvette, but HSV custom designed the centre section to fit under the hood. What you're looking at here is a tyre that costs around $800, and while it is fitted to some supercars, this is the only car in the world that carries it as standard. The Pirelli P0 Trofeo R is a semi-slick tyre effectively designed for racing and maximum grip. They measure in at 265mm wide at the front and a whopping 295mm wide at the rear. So that's the dirty bits out of the way, but I bet you're itching to see how it goes now, aren't you? Well, so am I, but before we go anywhere, it's worth calling out the differences inside this cabin. You get unique GTSR stitching and also a W1 insignia on the headrest. There's a lot of Alcantara in here as well, from the seats through to the steering wheel, but the rest is effectively the same as any other HSV. Now, enough of this. I think it's time that we hit the frog and toad. Despite its performance credentials, the GTSR W1 feels very much like a normal Commodore to drive. Sure, you have very firm suspension and a close ratio gearbox and a bit of a heavy clutch, but you still get that excellent feel through the steering wheel. You also have a razor sharp throttle, and best of all is the noise. How about this, a racetrack? This is where the W1 was born and bred, and it shows. Those sticky Pirelli tyres that don't make any sense on the road are perfect around here. You literally point the car, turn the wheel, stab the throttle, and it just starts moving. That firm suspension is really in its element here. And then there's the responsive throttle. It's ridiculous. And you remember those brakes, the ones that are bigger than a V8 supercar? This is where they're really shining. You stand on them lap after lap after lap, and they absolutely do not fade. It feels like they could go on forever and ever and keep pulling this car up. If you ever wanted to know what HSV's DNA consists of, it is cars like this. The W1 is a true example of HSV engineers putting their heart and soul into a product. This is going to go down in history as one of Australia's greatest ever cars. Just listen to it. This isn't about me, it is all about the car. But I've got to take this opportunity to say just how proud I am of what the Australian car industry has produced. Whether you've got blue or red blood flowing through your veins, Aussies have created a breed of car that will remain unmatched. Well, that is, unless you like the sound of four bangers or cramped interiors with merino leather.